Hi, good afternoon. This is Katie Chuba from the Hartland Area Chamber of Commerce, and today, June 4th, we are doing our Zoom at noon. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we do a noon at Zoom, at least for the month of June. We've been doing them for a few weeks now, and the purpose of our Zooms at noon are to talk to business leaders, organizations, and industry experts in our community to help us share information and what their experience, and maybe they have some good tips and tricks for others and other businesses and our community members, so we all can stay connected as we go through this reopening process, if you will, and recovery process, if you will. So we're just gonna hang tight here for just a couple minutes as I wait for some of the attendees that registered to come on board. And today I have Mr. Dan Callan with RE/MAX Platinum Team Callan. So thank you, Dan, so much for joining me today.
Well, you're most welcome, Katie. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time coming on to talk about the real estate market, which is kind of a hot topic right now, right?
It certainly is. It's very, very interesting to say the least.
Well, good. Well, today I'm hoping that you can fill us in a little bit about the home market as well as the commercial side of the real estate market. So I know you have a little presentation planned for us. So we are recording this. And so with your permission, I hope it's okay. We stick it on our YouTube channel and we can share it out to share that the good information that you're going to share with us.
Of course, that'll be just fine.
Okay, great. Those of you that are tuning in today and listening, if you have questions for Dan as we kind of chit chat today, please put them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we'll kind of facilitate through those questions in just a little bit here. So thanks, and thanks for tuning in. So Dan, I'm gonna tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you've been in real estate for over 30 years, so I would consider you a seasoned professional. And a little bit about your business, a little bit about yourself, how you're coping through this craziness in your business, and then I'm going to turn it over to you I know you have this great presentation for us, so I'm super excited to hear what you have to say, so I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, well, thanks, Katie. I appreciate it. So actually, I've been in the business for more than 40 years now, and with 35 years of that being right here in Livingston County in Hartland. So it's been a great place for me and my business and our family. And we've really enjoyed it, and we're still enjoying it, and very excited to be back to work almost at full capacity. But of course, there are many, many new practices that we have implemented to be able to do business safely for our customers and the other realtors and all the supporting people that are involved in real estate transactions. So it's been completely amazing what the changes that have happened in the last 60 days and how our industry has adapted to those changes. And frankly, I'm very proud of our industry. I think they're doing a great job and doing business in a safe manner, and but also in a productive manner. So anyway, so I'm going to give you some data and some information that might instigate some questions. But let's start with that, and we'll get set up on those. And that's just my contact information, and we'll move right on to the next slide. So just some quick stats. Now
So Dan, I'm just going to interrupt you for just a quick second. I'd really, and this is kind of just shooting from the hip here, I know we're having a conversation. I'd really like to take this Facebook Live. And if you're cool, I can tag your organization as we go Facebook Live with this. We'll get a lot more views. It's good marketing too, right? So
certainly.
So is it RE/MAX Platinum? What's your Facebook page? I don't know it off the top of my head. That's why I'm asking.
Well, our Team Callan Facebook page would be the one to use.
So it's at Team Callan?
Correct.
I'm trying to find it. I can't find it.
Callan/Team Callan.
Hold on, Katie, we'll get you that information.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. I know we're kind of stalling here, and I apologize. I appreciate everyone's patience. I just opened up another window trying to find it. Okay, I see it. Is it it's the dark circle, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, I got it. Perfect. Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Awesome.
All right, Katie, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So these are some quick facts from RealComp, which is the multi-list data system for southeastern Lower Michigan. So as you can see, the closed transactions.
Actually, Dan, I don't see your screen either. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Go back.
It's okay. We'll get through all this technical stuff and it'll be
Okay.
good. How we doing?
We're getting there.
Okay, awesome. Yes.
You see it?
Can you see it now, Katie?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, we're in business. Thank you.
Well, we'll thank our marketing and media specialist, Kevin, for getting that figured out.
Yay,
Thanks,
Kevin.
All right. So back to business. So just as I was saying that this is RealComp data, which is for southeastern Lower Michigan multi-list information. And as you can see, the year-over-year change in closed sales residentials and condos are down 46%. But, and this is just for April, but in April, the changes in the median sales price is up 11.7%, which is very, very interesting. And then the year to year, now that was just for April, the year to year change in price is down 18.2%. Now that's just an average price. That does not mean that property values have dropped 18%. So that's just some quick overview facts, and we'll move along to our next bit of information, except that it's not. Hold on one second. Okay, so residential sales through May right now are very, very interesting, as you'll see. There's 1,818 active residential listings in the marketplace right now in southeastern Lower Michigan. The average price of those listings is $490,731. As you can see in the next line, the pending transactions average, there's 2,411 of them. They average $283,583. And then the sold properties, which were 960 year to date in this category, were 249,501. So the point being is that the market is very, very active, but mostly in $350,000 price range or less. So, and that's very common for a recovery of any type. So in other words, the entry level, not that that 250 or 280 is necessarily entry level, but the entry level and the lower priced homes begin selling first, and then there's a trickle up effect. So in other words, those first time home buyers are making the purchases, and then the sellers of those homes are buying their move up homes, and then their lifetime home, and sometimes their luxury home. So it does typically follow this trend in the marketplace that things will start selling in the lower price ranges first, and then they'll work their way up as the market continues to recover. Okay, So residential year to date, there are 3,245 properties listed with an average sale price of $480,470. And that's again for southeastern lower Michigan through RealComp, Genesee County, Livingston County, and Oakland County actually for these stats. And there's been 7,472 sold with an average sale price of $252,861. So again, you can see that the market is most active in the lower price points. The interesting variable here is that you can see down at the bottom, it says that we have 2.1 months supply of inventory. So for those of you that don't understand, typically we consider anything less than 6 months of inventory to be a seller's market. So as you can see, this would indicate that we are in very much a seller's market. Now, this information is changing daily because there's a lot of people that have been waiting to put their homes on the market because of the COVID conditions and health and safety concerns and just concerns about the market and et cetera, et cetera. Now, we're getting to the point now where we're being able to alleviate some of those concerns. So a lot more of those people have been going on the market. But there is a pent-up demand of buyers. Even though we have 20 million people on unemployment in our country, there's still a pent-up demand of buyers of people that haven't bought in the last many months. So it's very encouraging that they're coming out and active to this degree. And of course, the extremely low interest rates are fueling a lot of that too. And as people get back to work, there's going to be more qualified buyers. Of course, there are conditions and there are different requirements for mortgage approvals than there was pre the COVID condition. So a lot of those things are changing. For example, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac require that you be back to work for 3 months before you can qualify for their typical financing. But some of the lenders are imposing their own restrictions over and above that. Some of them are requiring 6 months. So it's recovering, but it's going to be a process. So with that, we'll just move on to our next bit of information. So these are the questions that we get asked an awful lot during this time is when is the economy going to recover? Are we going into a recession? Is this going to be like 2008? What about all those jobs losses, and what should I do right now? And our recommendation is be smart, be patient, but most of all, stay safe and get good guidance from the representation that you employ to represent you through these processes, particularly in this market. So there's been a pause in the market. There hasn't been a stop in the real estate market. The market has never stopped. During the month of March, we closed 8 transactions, even though we weren't able to go to any closings. We weren't able to go on inspections. We weren't able to do walkthroughs with the buyers before closing. A lot of the closings we did remotely. We had our title company doing closings. People would pull up in the parking lot. The title agent would go out to their car, give them all the documentation, then go back into the building, call them on the phone, go over the documentation with them, come out, pick it up, bring it inside, make sure everything was taken care of, and so on. So it's been very, very interesting, but it hasn't stopped the real estate market at all. In fact, we were very fortunate with Team Callan to get every one of our transactions that were pending prior to the shutdown closed except one. And that was only because those sellers could not move back to their home country because of the COVID crisis. So with that, this is the best information that I've been able to ascertain over the past couple of months. And believe me, I've watched more webinars and informational videos than I have maybe in the last couple of years. But this is the one that is most consistent that I see through these processes. And essentially that it's expected, because of a lot of the data that we're going to talk about next, that we will have a V-type recovery. So in other words, a sharp decline, but a sharp recovery. And you can see that Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, those big lending institutions all are very consistent on this expectation of what we're going to see with the market. So historical analysis showed that pandemics are usually V-shaped, sharp recessions that recover quickly enough to provide little damage to home prices. And some very cutting-edge search engine analysis by our information management team showed the current slowdown is playing out similarly thus far. It's worth looking back at the history to place the potential impact of COVID-19 empirically. In fact, V-shapes monopolize the empirical landscape of prior shocks, including epidemics such as the SARS, the 1968 H3N2 Hong Kong flu, the 1958 H2N2 Asian flu, and the 1918 Spanish flu. Historical analysis showed us that the pandemics are usually, oops, sorry. Okay, so a recession does not equal a housing crisis. Many still bear scars from the Great Recession and expect the housing market to follow a similar trajectory in response to the coronavirus outbreak, but there are distinct differences that indicate the housing market may follow a much different path. While housing led to the recession in 2008, 2009, this time housing may be poised to bring us out of the recession. So this is some real interesting information. Notice that the 6 years prior to 2008, the incredible appreciation that housing was having in those 6 years prior, you will see that the lowest appreciation that was experienced in those 6 years was 6.5%. So in other words, prices were going up rapidly, dramatically, at too fast a pace. We always get concerns when anything happens too rapidly in our business, when prices go up too fast and when they come down too fast. But the 6 years prior to the COVID outbreak, you can see that the highest appreciation was less than the lowest appreciation before 2008. So that's very interesting statistics. So we don't have a big bubble that's going to break compared to 2008. In 2008, at that time, there were 8.2 months of inventory. So in other words, it definitely was not a seller's market. There was an abundance of inventory and very few people that were qualified. The financing became much more difficult. A lot of people were having other challenges, equity issues, and many, many other things. Today, now this is a national number. We have 3.1 months supply of inventory. So a much different set of circumstances than prior to the 2008 pandemic or recession. So with that, before we get into some of these other details, we're anticipating, because of so many things that are positive, including the interest rates. Our economy was extremely strong before the COVID crisis. Lending is changed substantially since then. There's one other important statistic that exists today that did not exist prior to the 2008 recession, and that is, amazingly enough, more than 53% of our homes in the United States, the sellers have at least 50% equity. So their equity positions are much stronger than what they were in 2008. So there's a lot of very serious information that indicates that this will, in fact, as they predict, be a V-shaped decline in recovery. So, and we're hoping that's the case. Now, of course, we're doing business completely differently than we were 90 days ago. So, for example, the next thing if you come into an appointment at our office, be prepared to fill out one of these access to building logs. It has to, you have to indicate whether you felt feverish or cough. Um, they even want you to take your temperature before you come in the building. And also, we're only supposed to have people in the building with a pre-scheduled appointment. So if you do want to meet with us or anybody else in the real estate industry, make an appointment in advance if you're going to go to their house. We can come, of course, we can now, as of May 8th, we can come and do listing appointments and visits at your home. We can show properties again. The restrictions were that we could have no more than 4 people in a home at one time. We have to have masks and gloves and booties. Actually, the gloves and booties are not required by the Michigan Association of Realtors, but Team Callan requires them on all of our listings. We are doing things a lot differently than we used to. For example, I have some listings that now you can't even schedule an appointment for unless you provide us with a pre-approval letter or proof of funds if it's a cash buyer. And the purpose for that is to limit the number of people to as much as we possibly can to those that are only qualified and very serious about seeing the property, and to protect our clients. For example, I have one home that's for sale that I meet the other realtors there as part of my agreement with the sellers of that property, who are both seniors, one with very compromised health conditions, that when there is a showing there, I meet the other agents and the prospects there to make sure that they're wearing masks, that they have rubber gloves, and that they have booties on. So we need to be very, very concerned and careful with how we're doing business and make sure that we protect everybody that we can during this process. So this is an example of an addendum now that will be used on all of our listing agreements. And this just is a disclosure. It's giving us a disclosure from the seller saying that they understand what the risks are and what the concerns are and what the processes are to go through and list your home and have it available on the market. Next, when we're showing prospective buyers, they also need to fill out this form for each and every house. Now, Team Callan has changed this up just slightly in that the state form that was provided to us by the Michigan Association of Realtors says that it's encouraged that people wear gloves and masks. At Team Callan, we've changed it to required to have gloves and masks because we want to make sure that we're taking every step to protect everybody involved as much as possible. So those
Dan,
are 3. Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
Sorry, I just had a quick question for you. You know, you're talking about, if someone's looking to purchase a home or sell a home or what have you, and they have to go through these steps to, make sure that they're healthy, like these pre-screening, if you will. Are you finding in your industry with other folks in real estate, I know you said the association recommends or encourages the uses of these documents. What's your take on, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. Like, you may not be my agent, right? So I guess for the general public, what can they expect? Can they expect to see something like this from their agents? Do you think all agents are doing this, or how?
Well, in fact, that I know that all agents are not doing this.
Okay.
And it's not, it's the requirement to wear the masks and gloves and things like that. And that's our requirement, and where the state is just offering encouragement for those. But no, we are seeing it all the time where people are trying to schedule appointments and we're having to contact that agent and say, we need the COVID buyer addendum before we can confirm the appointment, so that we have that in our file and that we have records, and so that we have some commitment from those prospective buyers that they haven't been exposed or they haven't been sick recently or that. And unfortunately, as it is most always in our industry, there are a lot of people that aren't doing things the way we recommend that they be done. So, but that's somewhat typical in our industry also. But we're making sure that they follow the rules in our processes.
Awesome.
Okay, so that completes our slide, Katie. And now I'll
Okay,
just get back to the regular screen.
perfect. Thanks, Dan. Thank you for sharing all that. While you're stopping your screen sharing, if, you know, like anyone that's listening or, you know, we're on Facebook Live recording, and if you want to see these documents, I'm sure, you know, Dan's contact information is on our website. He's easy to find. I would, you know, Google, who doesn't Google? So I really appreciate you sharing those interesting statistics. Do you think, you know, here's a question for you. I know you don't have a crystal ball. I get a lot of questions too, and I always say, well, let me get my crystal ball out and see if I can foretell the future. What do you anticipate the market to do in the next 6 months? Say that we step into the phase 5 of recovery and we're getting back to business, knowing what unemployment is dictating right now and how we kind of see unemployment in the near future. And you talked about getting approval. You have to show that you worked for 3 months. Do you think, well, I guess it's a twofold question. What do you see the market happening in the next 6 months? And do you see some forgiveness on that 3-month back to work requirement?
So what I see happening in the next 6 months is, one thing is for certain, is a lot more change. There's going to be a lot more methods and practices that are going to change the way that we do business. Of course, so much of it is reliant on the interest rates and employment, and so many of those variables we don't have a crystal ball. And one thing that I've learned in my career is how quickly things can change when we think they're going right along very, very well. I recall when 9/11 happened, our real estate market changed overnight. And so anything like that, the George Floyd situation is impacting us, our entire country, which can't help but impact the real estate industry too. So there's a lot of things that can happen suddenly that change things dramatically. But if we were not to have too many dramatic changes, we are anticipating, and by the way, I've listened to many appraisers and different things. Right now, we're not having too much difficulty with the appraisals. We are seeing some distressed sales taking place. So once those come into the marketplace, that will have a negative impact on values. But I think it'll be short-lived. And actually, we think if there's not any dramatic changes in interest rates and people start getting back to work, people are very optimistic right now just because they're excited, like we are in the business, just to be able to go back into our office. I did not like working at home. That was just not fun for me. But and to be able to interact with people and go see them and consult with them and share our experience with them and guide them through processes. You know, during the shutdown, I had so many complex situations. We actually moved a senior couple that were very health compromised from their condo to the assisted living facility here in Hartland. And it was incredible what we had to accomplish to be able to get that done. So there's going to be a lot more involved. There's going to be a lot more demands on us in the real estate industry. There's going to be a lot more complexity. There's going to be a lot more need for experience, consultation, and representation. But overall, we anticipate that in the next 6 months here in our local market, that we're going to have pretty darn good results and no real dramatic declines or anything like that unless there's some other event that causes that to happen. Like, a second round of the pandemic and a further shutdown, and that, then we'd be in a long-term trouble. So let's all hope that does not happen.
And I think that, your business isn't alone with, you talked about there's a lot more of doing this, a lot more of doing that, a lot more steps to be taken, a lot more precautions. We're pivoting, we're adapting, all these things that we're doing. So I guess my point is even though it seems like a lot more, I know, like, the real estate agents that I have ever dealt with in my life, and I know you and in your reputation, I mean, just going above and beyond to make sure that it is, I mean, thank God for technology, but to make sure that it is a smooth process, whether you're buying or selling. So I just think we're looking at new ways of doing things, right? Here
Yeah,
at the chamber, we're doing the same thing. You talked about you didn't like working from home. I don't like working from home either. I go to work to get away from my family, not to be with my family. No, I'm just kidding. But so that's good to hear that, safety first, you're taking the precautions, and we all are, it's the reality, and that buzzword new normal, but there's no other word to use.
right.
So
Well,
I
it's,
had a
the technology has always been an asset to us in our business, but it certainly doesn't replace the personal care that is so critical to what we do. I mean, every time we have a transaction, somebody is transitioning into a new lifestyle. And usually it's a big transition, whether they're downsizing or moving up or relocating or getting divorced, or there's a debt. There's so many different things, and it is all very, very personal, and it's critical that the realtors take it personally and do their business with personal concern. So but our industry gets better all the time too. So
awesome. Yeah, they say moving is one of the top stressors in someone's life.
it is. I
Yeah.
did that 5 years ago, and that was, I hope to never do it again. So
We're getting too old. Well, I'm getting too old. I don't want to
yeah,
move.
yeah, I'm already too old.
Actually, Dan, you were the listing agent on the house that I bought here in the Hartland area. So small world.
Oh yeah, the Brown's house, right?
Yes, yes. Oh yeah, tell everybody where I live. No, I'm
Yeah,
just
Harry
kidding.
Brown's house.
So thanks. I had another question for you too, but I couldn't think of it. So
I know you
oh
wanted to touch on commercial.
yeah, that was it. So
Okay,
I deal with a lot of businesses. My main goal is to help businesses, whether they're entrepreneurs, new businesses coming in to our area or want to do business in the Hartland area. And so what's the commercial industry looking like, or what's happening now, and what do you think is going to happen?
okay. So it's less predictable than the residential market,
Sure.
because in residential real estate, all the data is collective. And in commercial real estate, there's no one collective source. There's no one multi-list. There's no one common place that you can go to get all the data, or at least 95% of the data for that. So it's a little harder to predict and project. But we knew that before this crisis, that the retail commercial businesses and demand has dramatically declined over the past several years, and that's just because of Amazon and everything else that we do online. There's not as much need for the bricks and mortar, so we have to have a greater number of rooftops to support the commercial growth than we used to have. So that's one thing for sure. Of course, we have office buildings, and there's so many businesses right now, whether they be retail, industrial not so much. Industrial seems to be about the safest category, but the office buildings, even one of my own medical buildings here in Hartland, we've made concessions to two of our tenants, and I know that a lot of other landlords have to be doing the same thing. And let's face it, how many of these restaurants or other businesses like that are just not going to be able to survive this crisis, and they're going to go out of business. So we're going to have more space available. So I don't think it's going to be great. I think it's going to take a couple years to recover from the circumstances and the results of this pandemic.
Yeah, I know there was talks prior to the pandemic, in the Hartland area, it was looking really good for the rooftop.
Yes.
People,
Yes.
there were organizations or companies looking at this area to set up shop. And now, depending on where they were at in the process, may have pulled out. But yeah, it's unfortunate. And I guess, we had talked before this a little bit about this compared to 2008, 2009. Sure, the economy was at a different state, comparatively.
Yeah.
So you've you've went through that.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So I mean, I guess my question is do they compare? Do they not compare? And do you think what's the recovery look like in comparison?
Well, I think because of a lot of the data that we talked about today, especially with more than 50% of the homes in the country having more than 50% equity, that the sellers are going to be much stronger and they're not going to have as many desperation sales as we had in 2008. And if you recall, leading up to 2008, you could get a first mortgage, a second mortgage, a third mortgage, and whatever you want. You could get whatever appraisal you want. They would give you financing based on documented income. They wouldn't even verify a lot of the documentation. So those kind of things have not happened prior to this circumstance. So we're going to have a lot stronger retail or real estate ownership than we had in 2008. 2008, everybody was, or not everybody, but many people were buying. They would buy and their down payment would be a second mortgage. And so anyway, so we don't expect to see the foreclosure rate or the short sale rate or any of those things as dramatically as they did happen in 2008. Again, but if we have a second shutdown, that's going to change dramatically, and it's not going to be pretty.
Right. Changes the name of the game.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I felt like in 2010, around that time, a lot of people I knew they were married to their house.
Yeah.
Yeah. They really were just tied to their house, and that was
Right.
it.
Well, there were so many people that were upside down.
Right.
That they just couldn't get away from it. And,
buying more than they can afford. Let's not sugarcoat it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was big.
It was big. That was the thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was keeping up with the Jones or I don't know. I didn't fall into that trap, but
Yeah, right.
So
well, stuff was a lot more fun to talk about.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Well, and my thing too is and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of those homes, like I just think Hartland, right? Because this is my community. Those houses have kept their value over the years.
They have.
It's a desirable place to live still.
Yeah. Our school systems are still our biggest asset. Our taxes are a little lower than Oakland County. There's we all know the advantages.
Right.
I've been here for 35 years, and a great place to raise a family and run a business.
Awesome. Yes, I agree with you. So, I don't have any more questions. Anyone that's listening or anyone that's tuning in to Facebook, if anyone has any questions for Dan, please shoot. We'd love to make this a little interactive. I really appreciate your time today, Dan, and sharing all the data and the information. It's good to have people like you in our community that can share your industry with us, so our community stays connected and stays tuned to everything that's going on. So I appreciate it.
Well, we care about the people we serve, and we very much care about our community, and are very thankful to be a part of it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks.
So,
Well, it doesn't look like any questions are coming in, so we
I
can
guess
certainly.
I guess my presentation must have been complete then. So
Yes, way to be very thorough.
if anybody has any other questions, you don't have to be buying or selling a house. If you just want to call and chat and ask questions for your own curiosity that we didn't discuss today, please feel free. We're here.
Okay, thank you so much, Dan.
Okay, thanks
All
for
right,
having
you
me.
take care, and I
Okay,
hope to really see you in person soon. How's that?
sounds great. Enjoy the weather.
All right, you too. Thank you so
Stay
much,
safe.
everybody, for turning in. And we'll have additional Zooms at noon. We do have some planned next Tuesday. We also have some multi-chamber workshops and OSHA Zoom in the works. So just check out our website or feel free to reach out to me. So thanks, everybody, and have a great day.